Okay, I want to direct everyone's attention to the What on Earth is Happening website radio page, whatonearthishappening.com. Click on the radio show tab. Underneath the player, you'll see images for today's show. And then under that, you'll see a special section, and yes, your eyes do not deceive you. There are 148 image links posted on the radio show page of What on Earth is Happening. These will be the slideshow presentation that go along with the topic of the occult mockery of police and military personnel, which we are about to dive into. If there's any difficulty with this, since there's so many images here, I have also posted underneath that a PDF document link where you can download a 7.7 megabyte, slightly compressed PDF document, but all of the slides for this presentation are contained right in that document. Hopefully that won't put too much of a strain on the web server. It seems to be up to the task, but we'll see what happens. So you could take your choice. You could follow along with the PDF or with the slideshow of separate images. The advantage of the slideshow with the separate images are that there are a couple of animations within. There's maybe about 10 or 12 animations throughout the presentation. And those animations will not show up in the PDF document, obviously. They will show up as separate frames. So that's the only difference, but essentially all of the main information is in both places. So here we go. This is part of a talk. Actually, this is the talk that I gave at the Free Your Mind conference in 2011. This was my topic at the conference. And I had to give a very abbreviated version of the talk. I'm going to try to cover some things in a little bit more detail. I did cover a little bit of this when we talked about symbolism, obviously, but this will be a good overall general review of a lot of things that we've covered and really bring it home about how the occult feels about the people that they employ, whether they understand that they are their employees or not. So this presentation was originally given in abbreviated format in a little bit over an hour on Sunday, April 10th, 2011 at the first Free Your Mind conference. It is entitled The Occult Mockery of Police and Military Personnel. I began the talk by quoting George Orwell, the author of the book, the dystopian novel 1984. About a totalitarian police state future. Orwell said that if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. And really, if you think about it, that's what this entire show has been about. It's been about telling people hard truths that they're uncomfortable in dealing with, that they don't want to be true. Let's face it, people don't want this to be true. And they think somehow that matters, as if what you want to be true can somehow affect reality, instead of recognizing that you have to come to grips and to terms with that which is if you're ever going to change it for the better. You can't exist in denial. So this is all about helping people to confront that which is, because really all suffering comes from the refusal to do just that. What we can't fall into, if we're now looking at slide number 3, I'll try to be conscious about telling people which slide number I'm referring to now. So the title slide was slide 1, the Orwell quote was slide 2. Slide number 3 is what we should not allow ourselves to slip into in a knee-jerk reaction or in a guttural, visceral reaction when we first hear about such a topic. This is what I have called emotional mind control, or simply heart control. Many people will have friends, relatives, family members that are involved in these capacities, in serving in the military or in police forces. And they have an emotional attachment to the role that that person plays within their life. Therefore, when they hear that they're being used in an immoral capacity and in a capacity to usher in enslavement of people, they will immediately want to reject the information based on their feelings toward the individual. Their feelings toward the individual is dictating their perception of the veracity. Veracity means truthfulness of the information being presented. This is falling into a psychological trap known as emotional mind control. You're basing whether something is true or not on how you feel about the material, how the material initially makes you feel, which has nothing to do with whether or not it is actually true, whether that material is in fact correct and is the way things are. So we have to get over the notion that only that which makes us feel good or feel comfortable is what we should accept as true. And in many ways, I'm not asking anyone to accept any of this in every way, really. I'm not asking anyone to believe. That's, in a way, also a form of emotional mind control. People falling into, wanting to be told what they want to hear, and then they just automatically believe it. That would be equally as harmful. I'm asking people to look into some of this information for themselves. That can be difficult in many cases when it comes to subject material that is as esoteric as we're going to be covering, because much of it is only known about within occult circles. That is changing, however, and occult information is being brought forward to the general population more and more and in greater amounts as time moves forward, because of technologies, because of people who have been involved in certain occult organizations in different capacities, recognizing what some of these groups are really truly about and their true hidden agenda that isn't put forward in their mission statement, so to speak. So keep in mind emotional mind control. Blocking out what makes you feel uncomfortable is what we don't want to slip into. You have to try to take on the level of consciousness, really, of attempting to listen with an open mind and heart without prejudging the information first. Listen, take it in, and then try to verify it for yourself. That's how any scientific methodology is based: observation, and then try to verify it in your own experience. So don't pass judgment on it initially, because some of it will make you feel bad. Some truths can make people feel bad, and a lot of lies make people feel good. So that's what emotional mind control is about, and that's the warning going into this presentation. Another quote that I gave was by the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard, who said that there are only two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true, and the other is to refuse to accept what is true. We're talking about the occult mockery of the military and police, and we'll be talking about this for the next few weeks probably. Going through these slides on whatonearthishappening.com's radio show page or with the podcast. We were on slide number 4, moving to slide number 5, which is the definition of the word occult. Of course, this will be a review for many people who are longtime listeners to the show. What I'm attempting to do here in this section on occult mockery of police and military is to really, in an extended way, document this entire topic. So bear with me if you're already familiar with the concepts. Again, I said much of this will be review, but this is intended to stand alone for people as an audio series for people who have not approached this topic yet, and perhaps inspire them to go back and listen from the very beginning of the podcast, of the beginning of the What on Earth is Happening podcast, follow that progression through in order to really open up their consciousness. So I won't spend a lot of time on reviewing a lot of the stuff we've already covered, but I am going to at least touch upon it. So the word occult, of course, from the Latin verb occultare, which means to hide, to conceal, or to keep secret. The word occult should not be looked at in the connotation as meaning evil, but instead simply looked at based upon its derivative meaning, its derivation, its etymology, which means hidden. The occult is hidden information. Slide number 6 shows how hidden knowledge is used by the so-called power elite. It is compartmentalized and put into a hierarchical structure. When you put these two aspects of any given institutionalized structure together, you have the makings of controlling the human mind and controlling people's behaviors, because people in different isolated institutions who are not aware of the directing agenda at a higher level, they're all just putting their heads down, doing their job, not really asking questions, and often aren't granted access to the answers, even if they were to ask questions about what's going on at a higher level of the institution they happen to be working for. So compartmentalization and hierarchy are critical if you're going to basically limit people's perception of what they're involved with. They're not going to understand what they're really involved with. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. That's what compartmentalization is all about. But one small group of people is really directing the agenda, and they know how all the pieces fit together, all the different departments fit together. Hierarchy is like the chain of obedience, as we've talked about many, many times. It's everybody being a master and a slave simultaneously. Someone that they command, and then someone above them who commands them and who they bow down to and obey. So you put these two together, and this is how occult knowledge remains hidden. And that's ultimately what we need to understand. The knowledge that is really kept by these people is knowledge about ourselves. That's what all occult knowledge is really about. It's information about the human psyche. Moving to slide number 7, this is how the hidden controllers keep themselves as the so-called elite. They are manipulators, they are sorcerers, if you will, using the forces of the psyche against people who they have kept in ignorance. And we can't even just pin the blame just on these hidden elite. You know, it's people who don't want to know the truth, who have no desire to step outside of their limited scope of perceptions and step outside their own little selfish world and think of things on a larger level than just things that immediately, in the physical sense, happen to be affecting them today in the instant that you're talking to them. You know, they don't want to look at anything in the wider sense, see the bigger picture of anything, because they're selfish. So it's also largely that people have allowed this to happen through their refusal to look at truth, to look at that which is in an objective way. And their continuation of remaining selfish, wanting to remain only caring about themselves. They don't ultimately care. Apathy, ignorance, and apathy. And ultimately that leads to laziness. They don't want to actually do anything. They don't want to get up off of their lazy ass and actually do something in the real world to actually correct the situation that we're in. They don't want to take any action.